This is the Pimag Waterfall. Now, you're probably familiar with the waterfall already, which is why you're watching this video. As you know, it's an amazing piece of design. It has design and utility patents pending because it works using a simple gravity system and supplies multiple filtration, pi, and magnetic technologies. Now, to help you get the optimum use out of your Pimag Waterfall, there are a couple of procedures you'll wish to perform before the first operation. First, here's what we'll do. We'll take it apart. Lid comes off. The upper tank, the fill tank, lifts off, and inside that is the filter column. You can pop the filter column out like that. I'll take this cartridge and put the fill tank back on here for a second. On top of the filter cartridge is this lid, a little twist. We'll take the lid off. Underneath that are the two pre-filter pads. Remove the two pre-filter pads, one. Sometimes you got to dig in a little bit. Get that one, the next one. We'll need both of these, and we'll do a soak procedure on all three of these components. Now we're ready to perform the pre-soak procedure. Now this is something that you will want to do with the new filter when you receive the unit, and you'll also need to do this every time you replace the filter with the replacement component. For pre-soak, you need a bucket or pail or whatever receptacle will hold water enough. You put the filter cartridge in and you add water until you reach a level that is just under the top of the filter. In other words, it'll come up right to about where that rubber gasket is. And that's the appropriate fill level. This will need to soak. Yeah, you'll notice it's bobbing around a little bit, but when it begins to absorb more water, it will settle down. You also take the pre-filter pads. You place them in to soak. And as far as soak time is concerned, the optimum time is really overnight, because it'll take several hours for this to seep into all the passages between the carbon granules and the various other filter media. At least a few hours, give it, and as I said, overnight is optimal. But one thing you will need to do is check it periodically, because as water is absorbed into the filter, the level will drop here, and you'll need to augment that by adding water enough to keep it up to that line. As far as filtration times go, when the filter is new and the first few times you use it, the flow rate will probably be rather slow. But as time goes on and it cycles more water, the time will improve, and you should get a pretty rapid flow rate from putting the water into the top tank and the water flowing into the bottom tank. Now we've completed our soaking procedure, the pre-soak. Ideally it's overnight. At any rate, it's several hours at a minimum to make sure that the filtration media are completely saturated. When you're ready, after that's completed, you'll simply take out the filter and you will reassemble the components in this way. Take each one of the pre-filter pads, squeeze to get a little bit of that water out of there, and the air pockets mainly, to remove the excess air bubbles that could be in there. You'll replace, again, gentle squeeze, get out the air. Replace the filter pads. The cap goes on next, and the cap will fit just by snapping it on. Now it's in place. And you'll reassemble the filter, placing the cartridge inside the top fill tank. What you'll need to do is, I'm taking this out here just to make it clearer, make sure that the seal, the rubber seal around there, is pressed evenly and tightly into the supply tank. That way the water will go only through the filter component and not around the edge. Reassemble it, put the top back on, and you're all set to go with filtration until the next time you need to replace the filter. The final step in the filter preparation procedure, before you're ready to use the waterfall, the first thing you want to do is position it like this over a sink or somewhere else where the water can drain out, because you'll need to flush the unit a couple of times. Take off the lid. You're going to be pouring water into the top, and at the same time you'll be letting water drain out the bottom. The reason why we're doing this is because some of the filter media, carbon particles and other filter media that have accumulated or come loose during shipping, will still be in there, and we're just removing the excess filtration media from the filter so that it will not appear in the water. While you are pouring the water in the top, take this lever, which controls the flow, tilt it up like that. That will allow the water to flow out. And you'll keep continuously pouring water in the top and letting it flow out, and continue that process until you have flowed through 2 or 3 cycles. And when you've done that, the filtration procedure is complete and you'll be ready to use the unit. Your Pimag Waterfall is equipped with a filter life indicator, which is located on the front here. And you'll notice there's a button here and a small LED display above that. What this does is it tells you when it's time to replace your filter. One thing to keep in mind is that every time you put a new filter in, you need to reset this filter life indicator. And you do that by pressing the button, holding it. You'll see a light blinking, and then you'll see a light go solid, and then you'll see it go out. When that happens, your filter is reset and you're ready to go. Now, occasionally, when one of these is shipped, the battery connection in the back may become jarred loose just during the shipping process. And the way you'll know that is when you get a new unit, a new Pimag Waterfall, first thing you want to do before you put it all together, and if you don't get any reaction, as I said, when you press the button and press and hold it, if the filter light does not come on at all, the LED indicator, then we'll need to check the battery connection and probably reset it. And that just means making sure it is in there in case it's jarred loose during shipping. So what you do in order to perform that, you lift up the supply tank, this bottom component, turn it upside down, and you'll see in the bottom here, which is now the top, there are 2 small Phillips screws. To remove this component so we can get to the battery connection, there are 2 small Phillips screws here. We just need to take those out, and it's a pretty simple operation. You can use a screwdriver. It's pretty quick. Just take out one screw, and you take out the other screw, and now this piece will lift off. Now that we've got those 2 screws taken out, we can remove this front plate. We just push forward and down a little bit, swing it out over that assembly. And when I turn it up here, you'll notice that flat disc right there. There's the battery. To remove the battery, you want a flat blade-like object, such as this screwdriver, for example. And you'll see a flange right here, and if you tilt this down, push on that flange, the battery will just drop out. Once you've taken the battery out, take it in your hand, reinsert it, push it in firmly, and make sure that you get the connection that way. That should correct the problem. What we do then is we check the button, see if you get a light. Yes, so now the battery's connected. Make sure you do that before you reassemble. Then we're going to put the unit back together again, this battery assembly. Bring it down over here. There's a cutout here for this electrical wire. Make sure that the wire goes through that cutout. You'll actually want to do it this way. Go underneath first. And then you notice I did put the wire through the cutout there just to make sure it doesn't get snagged on anything or caught. Bring this back up. There are 2 lugs here on each side. There's 1 lug, and when you line it up with those and push down, you'll have it in place. Reattach the 2 screws, and you can put the thing back together and you're all set to go. Now I have the Pimag Waterfall fully reassembled, almost ready for use. The final step is to reset the LED indicator that tells me the filter life. To do that, press and hold the button. You'll get a light, maybe green, maybe red. The important thing is when you're resetting it, when you hold it in for 10 seconds, you get a green light that flashes and then it goes off. When that happens, that tells you that the button is reset, it's ready to go, and when you need to replace the filter, that light will be red rather than green, and that will let you know. We're all done.